So building upon an infrastructure as a service cloud is a start, and many of the cloud services that we see in the market today are certainly infrastructure as a service. So without naming any names, we're just going to put here cloud provider. And the key here is, how do we take what has been built with these cloud providers and actually make it functional for our legacy infrastructure, our legacy IT, right? We're moving things over from our legacy IT into the cloud. Now, many of the cloud infrastructures offer what we call infrastructure as a service. And so infrastructure as a service is the core. Okay, so sometimes it's hard to spell and talk at the same time. Infrastructure. Okay, good. So infrastructure. So what is this? This is really, we're talking about servers, we're talking about storage, we're talking about network, we're talking about just the core, right? What we call below the hypervisor. And we're going to put in security here as well, which is going to include your firewalls, IDS, IPS, things of that nature. So let's just draw kind of a demarc here. So here, if we just kind of draw this across, we can safely assume now that everything here is below the hypervisor. Now, we have other videos on what the hypervisor is and how it works and where our costs are related. We're not going to talk about that. So some of the hypervisor examples are going to be something like KVM, VMware, Hyper-V, things of that nature. So whatever your cloud is that you select, it's going to be one of these. Let's just assume maybe it's KVM. So that's the hypervisor. Now, built within the hypervisor are a couple things, right? So now we build upon the cloud. The first thing that we do as a customer is we put in a network operating system. And so some examples of this, right, are Windows or Red Hat, for example, right? Could be Ubuntu, could be Solaris. Solaris doesn't work so well, but you get the picture, right? An operating system or a network operating system. Now, on top of that, we load software. So this is whatever software that you want. Now, this is often referred to as software as a service in a light kind of way, and we're going to talk about this in a minute. But for federal customers, that's GOTS, government off the shelf, and for commercial customer, that's COTS, commercial off the shelf. All right, so basically software. And let's extend this out just a little bit. So some examples of that may be, I don't know, mobility, right? Manager, right? Often referred to as MDM, right? Or maybe it's email as a service, okay? So, that's your email, and so on and so forth. Or it may be an accounting program that you use within your organization that you absolutely need. Okay, and so this is essentially loaded. Remember, this is a hypervisor. So what is this above here? This is a virtual machine, right? Or often referred to as a VM. Okay, so a virtual machine. So why am I kind of making these distinctions? Because there seems to be some confusion out there on virtual Mac, but virtual machine, you get what I'm saying. So this is the service that we offer. So let's say, for example, you may buy this right here. You may buy all of this underneath, right? All of this underneath here. This is all from a provider. It could be company XYZ. All the cloud providers. There's lots of them out there that are offering infrastructure as a service. And so you allow them to manage this infrastructure for you. Now, these people also may have migration services. They may have additional management above the hypervisor. But at a bare minimum, typically, they're going to manage everything underneath the hypervisor, and you are going to pay a specific dollar amount for that service. And usually that dollar amount you usually pay is broken down by virtual CPU, virtual RAM, and storage. All right, so that's kind of the costing model. And then you as an integrator or you as a consumer, you then still cover, these costs. So this would be an integrator or, a company, whatever, right? And so you're going to cover all of these costs to build this infrastructure. Now, often there's kind of this gentle line between the provider of the cloud and the consumer of the cloud. And a lot of times they'll have these additional services that you can purchase right on top of the cloud. But for general sense, that's kind of what you do. Some other things that you need to consider and keep in mind are additional costs that you're going to have. So let's list a couple of these costs. One of the big costs is going to be security. So you're going to have to secure this. And in the federal environment, this means your movement to an ATO. So you got to be able to get to that ATO. And what does that mean? That means security controls. All right? And so again, you can come down here to these guys and have them help you write those security controls. The other thing that you have to realize is that when you drop this workload here, remember, we're really talking about customer workload. And so let me just highlight, this is kind of customer, integrator, everything here in yellow, that's their responsibility. This is typically a cost that you still have to incur. It's no different than your legacy infrastructure that you have today. So we have security controls. You have things, your operational management. Now, a lot of time, the provider can offer these things, right? So you have operational management, and this is going to be things like, patching, things like that, maintenance, this type of activity still occurs above the hypervisor. And then the last thing that kind of happens is migration. So we're constantly migrating from, old NOS to new NOS to cloud. All of these things are happening as well. So all of these costs, just as a review here, as we kind of summarize this, these costs, all highlighted in yellow, are typically an integrator's cost or revenue, right, or opportunity. They're all here. Most cloud providers are going to provide you below the hypervisor a cost here to operate. But remember, it's very important that many of these providers also provide everything that is included up here. And that's kind of highlighted here. Integrator, company, that's kind of highlighted right here. Whoops, the daisy got a little sloppy there, sorry. But, so depending upon whoever's providing your cloud, they may offer many of these additional services that do not go away just because you go to cloud. The services like security, operational management, and migration of your environment.